So Dustin, you're coming into this fight, I'd say, on the finest form of your career, 3-fight winning streak, your longest in the UFC. What has been clicking so well for you over this past year or so?
Man, I would say just what's been clicking. I mean everything really. It's the experience that has been the biggest advantage, you know what I mean? Letting go of trying to be a certain person inside and outside of the cage, you know what I mean? When you first get here, you try to be that guy. You try to say all the right things and do all the right things, and it puts a lot of pressure on someone, you know, and I know it did me. I put a lot of pressure on myself because I hate losing. And when it comes down to it, man, I found that I perform best when I just don't care. You know, obviously I care, but when I go out there and I'm just like, man, I'm going to do everything I can. I've trained hard for this. I belong here. I fought with the best of the best, won some, lost some. But I'm just going to do me, and that's really been the key to victory here lately, just doing me.
Is that a change in mentality that came up after the last loss, where you just kind of let things go and then you've had the results you want now?
Yeah, I believe that has a little bit to do with it. I think just kind of getting older as well, you know, more mature, and surrounding myself with people that have been there, done that, you know, and then also with people that are hungry. I can kind of be in the moment more and say, man, this guy, he's been here, he's fought, he's got this advice, this person here is up and coming, and they're trying to do this, and I'm kind of right in the middle where I'm in the mix, you know. So I take 2 and 2 and put it together, and it's just gotten me to at peace feeling mindset, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not a better gauge to see how far you've come than doing this rematch, right? Obviously, that was earlier in your career, but like, this is a real way to test your development, how far things have come, right?
Yeah, it's an opportunity. It's a blessing to me, man. Like, just to have this, to fight a guy that I've already fought, to fight a guy that has been #1 in 35 and in 25 his entire career, man, I'm truly thankful for it. I'm truly thankful for it. But I don't need this particular fight to gauge how far I've come. I can look back and see. You know, you can look back and watch that fight in my last 3 fights and say, wow, he's definitely evolved since then, you know. But I'm thankful for that fight because I did learn a lot, and especially looking back on it now as who I am, I can definitely see that I've learned a lot. So. And
when did you really come into the mix for this whole situation? Because at first, Joseph was going to fight Figueiredo, and then they said he was just going to be an alternate for the title fight in case something came up, and then you came in the next day and announced this fight because he said he still wanted to compete. He didn't just want to cut weight and not fight. So when did you get the call? When did this develop for you?
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to just cut weight just because. I don't know what the time difference was, but I assumed that they called me right away because, excuse me, I just found out that his name again?
Figueiredo?
Figueiredo, yes. So I was told that he said that he wouldn't be able to make the weight because they moved the fight a week earlier, and they called me right away, and I was like, sign me up, you know, I'll make the weight in that amount of time. And then I saw that they were using Joseph, as a backup. So I was like, hold up, they just offered me the fight. I said yes, and now they're using him as a backup. And then they announced the fight, so I don't know where I came into the mix, but I'm assuming it was kind of a right away deal. Sign the contract, send it back, and here we are.
So I am interested, what's it like being in your position? Because, you know, Joseph is being tapped as the alternate. If something happens this next 24 hours or, you know, up until the fight night with TJ or Henry, it seems like he'll be the guy to slide in, assuming they're willing to take the fight. That leaves you know, SOL, I guess, sitting on the sidelines. So what do you do in that situation? Like, how do you...
that guy cutting weight. I just was saying that nobody wants to be that guy. Yeah, I assumed that's going to happen. I'm not really sure the communication process with the UFC and the athletes at this point. Everybody's asking me, what's happening with the 25 division? Where do you stand? What's happening? And my entire family is coming to this fight, and they were even asking, like, hey, so what happens if one of the guys don't make weight? And I'm just like, I'm showing up on the scale 125 no matter what, you know? So I assume that Joseph will step in for one of the athletes if they don't make the weight, and then I'm going to show up and collect a check. It's not going to be the big one that I want, but it'll be something, you know, and I'm going to continue to fight and do what I got to do.
It's interesting. You said you're going to show up at 125, not 126. Is that the idea? Because if something happens with Joseph or whatever, you want to be eligible as well?
Absolutely. It's all about the opportunity and being ready for him. So I'll be there 125 on the dot. Absolutely. Hey, I'll fight TJ. I'll fight Henry. It doesn't matter. You know, that's the kind of fighters that people want to see. You know, and that's the kind of fighter that I am. I haven't turned down any fights in the UFC. Maybe it asked for some more time. I took short notice fights, you know, so I got the third most UFC fights in flyweight history, and I wasn't the first guy here, you know, so but I'm still here, so that says something. And yeah, I'll fight any three of them. I'm ready. If anything happens, it's what they're paying me to be here for.
Perfect. And you know, in this main event, Henry's saying he's here to save the flyweights. TJ's saying, you know, maybe he'll be taking the division out. You've been asked about, like you said, a bunch of times leading up to this fight. What's kind of just your take on everything that's going on? I'm sure right now, you know, the only thing you can really control is winning your fight and then seeing how it goes from there. Is that just how you feel about it?
Yeah, a little bit. Every fight is a save the division fight. Every fight is save your career fight. Every fight is the most important fight of your career when you get into the UFC. You can't say this isn't the most important one, because it's the one now. You never know if you're going to have one after. So I treat them all the same. I'm showing up very prepared, going to give it my all, going to go out there, put on a show. I'm looking to knock out Joe in the first round, just like I have my last couple fights. You know, I want another Ortiz statement in the history books. You know, most first round finishes in flyweight division, most knockouts, most time in the ring, the octagon, whatever I can get. You know, I'm always shooting for something. So if it's to save the division, quote unquote, yeah, of course I'm going to be here. I think that should be all the fighters. Their theme is to represent their weight class, represent themselves, and represent the UFC, you know. So I think we're all doing that. It's just that's what everybody wants to talk about right now, and so that's what's getting the highlight. But I think everybody's doing it.
And just last thing, obviously you're in the best form of your career, as we kind of started off the interview with. What do you make of Joseph at this point? He had the long injury layoff. He came back, you know, lost a close one to Sergio, rebounded in the last fight. Do you think he is still as good as he's ever been? Do you notice, maybe due to injuries, a little bit of that edge taken off? What do you just make of him right now?
Man, trying to get me to talk bad about Joseph on camera. What's up with that? No, I think, honestly, I think he's better than ever. It's catching up with him. He has a lot of years in this sport, and that wears on somebody. You know what I mean? It wears on the mentality. It wears on the body, and I feel that he's plateaued at the very highest level. You know what I mean? He's still growing, but it's very small compared to the amount that I'm growing right now, because I'm still learning and my body is still coming into the peak where I feel that he's already at, just based off of all the miles that he has on him. You know what I mean? It's far more than me. I was watching Joe like right out of high school fighting the WEC. You know what I mean? And so that wears on somebody, and so I feel that I will have the advantage going into this fight as a more uninjured, youthful fighter, and more experienced than I was last time, for sure. So he's got it, just not like I do.